afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast Addendum, another What Went Wrong. But in this case, not instead of looking at an entire faction, we're looking at a specific unit. The Panther, much maligned by both the Allies and the Axis throughout its history. And of course, the big question is, why is that? Why is it exactly the Panther just isn't a very satisfactory to play with or to fight against? That's sort of what I'm going to try to answer here. So overall, looking at the Panther, what could sort of be, the answer to this? What is it that leads the Panther to just not being very good? Well, let's sort of take a look at what it is. It's, seemingly defined by sort of the tank, hunted tank, and already they were sort of moving into the very nebulous territory of what exactly is that supposed to be? It's not a medium tank, it's not a heavy tank, it's not a light tank, it is a tank hunter tank. So it's not a tank hunter, but it's not really a tank either. It's basically sort of in between a tank and a tank hunter, at which point again we're sort of entering into the very fussy territory, and over there we can sort of begin to see the problem with the Panther. It's sort of been defined as this very sort of not very specific thing that doesn't do anything particularly well. Not compared to the Tiger, which is most people are going to choose over the Panther any day, because the Panther, or the Tiger, is a heavy tank, It does what a heavy tank does, which is deal a lot of damage, soaking it up. The Panther is neither. We could further sort of take a look at what it does. It has reasonably good machine guns. As some like to point out, it has DPS-wise more damage than the Comet. Though, of course, people will take the Comet in most cases over the Panther, because the Comet, though, it overall has sort of everything better situated. The thing about to keep in mind is not just the machine guns, but the gun itself works completely oppositely to the machine guns. The Panther wants to fight from range overall. It has long range, it has good armor. So it obviously wants to fight from range, but machine guns do not allow for it. Yet at the same time, despite having long range and good armor, it can't deal damage sufficiently. In that sense, it's not very good. Yet it doesn't have the range to be a full tank destroyer either. It's sort of stuck between being, a decent medium tank, a decent tank destroyer, but ultimately ends up being neither, because it's sort of just stuck in the crossroads in between. So for players playing against it, it's a bastard to deal with, because it's just got enough range to be a nuisance to them and enough armor, but at the same time it can't really do anything serious against it. Comparatively, for anyone who's tried to use it, the Panther isn't good enough, because it doesn't have the damage, the survivability, because honestly most tank destroyers are increasingly designed to be able to penetrate the Panther's frontal armor easily. So in that regard, there's a bit of a sort of weird thing going on with the balancing, if you will. So the Panther can't really do much there, yet it can't, project the damage well either. And again, you can theoretically get up close with infantry, but again, then you're pretty much negating the Panther's advantages, which is range and armor, however much that is worth. And that's essentially the problem with the Panther. It's just everywhere, but nowhere good. Compare it with the company's one Panther, which, was loathed, but at least the Allied Axis player liked it, because it at least was focused. The Panther there was basically a better medium tank. It was better versus tanks, but it was still good versus infantry. But at the same time, it was tough, and it did damage. Compared with the company's one Panther 4, the company's one Panther had more armor, more damage per shot, which again was really big. In fact, it had roughly the same rate of fire as the company's two Panther, but did more damage per shot, meaning the Panther was overall a much more imposing presence. It didn't have the same range as the company's two Panther, but it was overall, packed a lot more punch, and that was what made the company's one Panther actually good and worthwhile to aim for. Comparatively, the company's two Panther isn't, because it's everywhere, but anywhere good, and again leads to a sort of a very frustrating tank. We really try for it, and most of the time it doesn't work. You really have to be ahead for the Panther to sort of be seriously, worthwhile. And even then, you're better off going for Panther 4s and Stooks, which is also the other issue. You're just better off sticking to the previous tier and going for something a bit better than the Panther. Again, there's just sort of the overall seemingly role Relic gave to the Panther is probably the more realistic one of Whipping Boy, because whenever something is wrong, they just nerf the Panther until the Panther saw no usage, because again, they just gave it this incredibly nebulous and vague role, which does not allow it to excel in any area, despite, it's supposed to be a Panther, which was, one of the war's, in a sense, better tanks. I'm not going to call it the best tank. It was, suffered from too many mechanical issues, but in many ways, it was, modern tank was certainly what led to, sort of the modern, main battle tank concept. Yet the Panther we got in Companies 2 does not in any way reflect this. So what could be done, to sort of make the Panther more worthwhile? And again, not make it this super spammable thing. Apparently, team games, which again is sort of, it's one crime. Again, if you get a ton of them, which is what you can get in team games, large ones it is. Apparently it's, decent. Maybe it's also because large team game players aren't that good, I don't know. But Like, that's apparently in its one sim, but again, like, no one is using it really in 1v1 except, you know, if they're really, really far ahead, because it's cool to get a Panther. But, like, if you're behind, the Panther's not going to help you in most cases. It is not going to help you. And that's kind of the issue with the Panther. Now they're nerfing it. I mean, again, they're giving it a small boost to its rate of fire, but that's not really going to cut it for the Panther. I mean, hell, it has Blitzkrieg, again, it has, you know, for offensive maneuver, but it doesn't help it because it can't deal the damage. I mean, it's just this confused mess of a tank, and they just seem not particularly keen to get him doing something. They had, like, 5 years to figure something out with the Panther, and it still hasn't arrived. And here, by the way, I just got too preoccupied with other things. My Panther got annihilated. I probably could have saved it, but, you know, my overall point still stands, which is, it's just not that good. Even with all the veterans, of course, once the patch hits, you know, it's going to be even less better unless they do something drastic there. So, I mean, overall, the idea is they need to figure out what the hell they want the Panther to do more than anything in this world. Like, what is it? Is it a tank hunter? Because why then you insert the Panther in the first place, which was not a tank hunter? It was a medium tank. If it's a medium tank, and again, a better one than the Panther 4, again, I mean, they basically cornered themselves, well, painted themselves into a corner with Orbital Commander Vest then, because now it has to sort of deal with the Panther 4. But anyways, like, why don't you just make it a better medium tank? Like, you know, the Comet is allowed to be one, the Panther apparently isn't. And the Brits, again, in many cases can be described as a better Wehrmacht, so, you know, why not just, you know, do something there? I mean, just decrease its range, increase the damage of the main gun, at least that way to stand out more compared to the Comet. Maybe give it a nice veteran ability instead of Blitzkrieg, you know, something that maybe fits the bill more. And, you know, you might actually have, you know, sort of a worthwhile, you know, premium elite medium tank for the Wehrmacht. Rather than currently, which is, you know, it's neat, but it's not that good because it's just pulling in all directions. I mean, that's sort of the overall core issue with the Panther. It's just this, again, nebulous role. Machine guns that want it to be up close, main gun and armor that wants it to stay at range, abilities that wants it to get up close as well. Like, it just pulls in all sorts of directions, but at the same time, just isn't particularly good in any arena, any area of conflict. And that just sort of, well, again, you know, when they so nerf it, they just make it worse, because then it really has anything to do, because the armor was essentially like the only really good thing about the Panther left, and now they're hitting that as well without compensating. And again, half a second off the reload fire is going to have absolutely next to no real impact when it still doesn't deal enough damage per shot. I mean, they really need to up the damage per shot, or they need to drastically reduce the reload, or they have to make the Panther a lot bloody cheaper. I mean, the actual Panther only cost a bit more to make than a Panzer IV. So, I mean, you know, they could take an inspiration from there. I mean, they went for that one. I mean, you could sort of get away with the Panther here because you could at least then amass it, but then that would be counterproductive to the role of, you know, making the Panther less spammable. So we're basically sort of, you know, driving in circles here, but, like, they have to figure out what they want to do with the Panther. My personal suggestion would be reduce the range, increase the damage, and replace Blitzkrieg with something more useful. That would basically be it. Then increase the cost of the Orc Panther, do something similar, and again, change the ability, and, you know, you're good to go. The Panther will also, you know, have a more specific role. It'd be, you know, pretty good. But again, that would be overpowering, and again, tanks would be more effective versus, because again, it'd have to get closer, but then you'd be incentivized towards flanking, because once your Panther got within range, it could actually do some goddamn damage. So those are sort of my thoughts there on the Panther, and again, what went wrong and how could we maybe fix it. Though again, so far, Relic is not seeming particularly inclined towards actually fixing the Panther. I mean, who knows? They might decide to one day, once, you know, they're close to, you know, announcing companies, they might go, all right, maybe we should make the Panther, you know, an actual Panther. But until then, again, so far, we don't seem to be getting any closer to a Panther that's, you know, actually worth a damn. Except, you know, again, neat when you're ahead. Again, that's basically it. It's a novelty. It's a toy. It's, you know, a flair, basically. In the sort of sense, you know, hey, I'm doing good here. Look at me spend my resources on a Panther instead of just more Panzer IVs or Stugs, which would do the job much more efficiently. So those are sort of my thoughts here on the Panther. Of course, feel free to agree or disagree. But I definitely feel like the Panther as a tank currently is just a bit of a mess. It's here, there, but nowhere really sort of particularly good place. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know, subscribe, like, share, comment on it, if you know. And of course, feel free to support me on Patreon or PayPal. And of course, a big thanks to all my patrons some supporters without which this episode was certainly not impossible. So thank you all, and see you all another time for another video. Cheers.